Like, do you not see it?
Is it recording now?
Live from the gorgeous Prince George's. This is the Shattered Illusionz Podcast. And we are back, man, after a little bit of a hiatus. I've been saying that for like 3 weeks now. But look, in 2023, we're going to get our shit together. I promise y'all. We are coming full force. But before we get started, guys, I want to say a couple of things. Quick announcements. Make sure you follow us on TikTok and Instagram at Shattered Illusionz. As I always say, we've been growing at a pretty good rate. Want to keep that going. Also, guests and ladies, if you want to be on the Shattered Illusionz Podcast, please DM us on either Instagram or TikTok. We will make sure you get on here. You want to get on here before we blow up, as Oliver always says.
Yes, definitely.
Now for the show tonight, before we get to that, I got to check on my boys. Oliver Fortune, the man, the myth, the legend. How you doing, bro?
Man, we doing good, guys. Like I said, 2023, we coming with a lot stronger, got a lot of good content for you guys. Definitely excited. And also, ladies, if you want to help out in the background as well, we also looking for people in the background. So if you podcasting not really your thing, but you want to be a helper, that's cool too.
You forgetting your whole thing, nothing but fortune. You forgot that.
What you mean?
That's your intro, man. It's all good. It's nothing but fortune over here.
Nothing but That is true. I can't go back now. It's not gonna feel right. It's gonna feel forced.
And then we got a very special, annoying person in the background. Skylar, how you feeling tonight?
Not so annoying, thank you.
Anyway, I'm sick of her shit already. But we got a really, really exciting episode for you guys tonight.
Woo!
Because we have.
Don't you got the little clap your hands thing?
Oh yeah, the applause button. I gotta get better with this 2023. We got an exciting guest tonight.
Yes.
And because it's Oliver Fortune's guest, I'm gonna let him introduce himself, and then we'll hop into it. So go ahead, Oliver. Go ahead.
Yes, guys, we got a good friend of mine, Coach Kyle, right here. Definitely so excited to have this guy on. What this episode today is going to be about, since some people know that I was a former teacher. If you didn't know, I was a former teacher in the DMV. Kyle, currently right now, is a teacher in South Carolina and a head wrestling coach. So today what we're going to talk about is a little bit about how the school system basically not only programs kids in terms of like the matrix, giving them illusions that we're trying to shatter, but also how we feel like it's really hurting, especially young boys as a whole.
So we're going to go ahead and pass the mic to the one,
the
illustrious
Coach Kyle.
Coach Kyle.
Yes, sir.
Will I take him to the greatest?
Thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it. We've been looking to get together for a hot minute now.
Yeah, man. So it's good. And also, yeah, you got your own podcast as well, the Coach's Corner.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool.
You already know this, but other people may not. I run a podcast all myself where I talk about some of the issues that go on in schools and just things that are going on in the culture right now. I talk about the matrix and how, they want people that are dependent and victims and everything else, and everything's broken down into power structures. So,
And that is just so important. And a lot of people don't realize how when we get out into the world, a lot of the stuff that we learn in school, it's bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Excuse my language, but it's like, they're programming you to be working. But we're definitely going to get more into that now. And congratulations on the Bucked Up sponsor, man. Congrats on that.
Heck yeah, man.
Got the Bucked Up
I love it, man. I love their stuff. I've been buying it for a couple years now. And when I reached out to them about working together and they finally were like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, let's go.
Do you have like a coupon code and all that stuff too?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll make sure we put that.
Yeah,
down
make sure
in the
you
description.
get it sent to me so we get it down there.
Yeah, absolutely,
bro.
All right. So,
but before we even start though, Kyle, I want to say I told you before, but I appreciate because you always showed love. You've been posting on Instagram and everything like that. You always been, liking the pictures and everything like that, bro. We appreciate you, man, for real.
Absolutely.
And you're welcome on the platform anytime. But before we kind of start, I'm gonna pass to Oliver after this. But you want to kind of just give the people a quick little elevator pitch about like who you are, what you do, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, so basically, I kind of grew up in a small town in upstate New York where, everybody kind of knew everybody. And we kind of got exposed to outside cultures from Fort Drum, and we would get a lot of people in from all different kinds of backgrounds in when it comes to typically outside of our area. And then as I got older, I looked at my PE teachers more specifically, and I was like, man, that's got to be the best job ever.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, they get to play games all day. They get to, like, if a kid annoys you, just give them push-ups. That was me thinking, like, in high school, right?
Right.
But and then I looked at coaching, and when during that time, my parents were in the middle of a divorce, and I became a very frustrated young man.
And what age were you then when your parents?
I think I was like 11. It was somewhere between 11 and 13.
Oh, 11, 12. He's pretty young. Okay.
Yeah. And my sister was 4 years younger than me, so she took it much harder. I just kind of used that as a driver to continue to pursue whatever goals I was pursuing at the time, which was wrestling and football and things like that.
Were you still like in touch with your dad, or it was something where it was kind of like a mom-dad split? Y'all just went your separate ways.
My parents, it's kind of weird. Like they can't stand each other half the time. But when it came to me or my sister stepping out of line, just bam,
right. That was good.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah,
okay.
and I think that's part of the reason why we kind of grew up the way we did, in the sense that like we didn't really have like my sister's kind of gone through her own deal, but with me, I've had my own fair share of demons, but not anywhere near what kids deal with today.
Right. And so you pretty much had both of your parents still kind of like around as you grew up, especially through your teenager.
And especially when they weren't together, like they were arguing a lot or whatever.
Right.
I still had my grandparents.
Okay.
You know, my grandfather, and I talk to my students about my grandfather all the time. A lot of the platitudes and the way I talk and the things that I do. You know, this part of the reason why the bucked up thing meant so much to me is because my grandfather was a hunter.
Oh, wow. Okay, shoot.
So,
Dang.
and on his tombstone is a deer head. So, yeah.
Whoa.
So that's part of the reason why this also meant so much to me.
Everything kind of is coming full circle, bro. That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my grandfather was a huge influence on my life. And my grandmother too was an enormous influence, and my parents, they did the best they could with the situation that we were in. And then I graduated from high school, ended up going to community college for 2 years. And then I ended up going to SUNY Cortland for 6 years on a 4-year degree. And
we've all been there. I don't feel bad.
And
were you playing sports during that time, like in community college, or would you wait till you got to your year 5 and 6 to start playing?
Not in community college. Community college, I kind of just worked on myself.
Okay.
Where I ended up going to SUNY Cortland, and I wrestled there for a year or two.
Okay.
And it was prematurely ended because I hit a move that I've done a million times, and I got injured because of it.
Okay.
Yeah. But other than that, I mean, I SUNY Cortland, my aunt went there because she was a PE teacher. It just kind of runs in the family. I'm a Red Dragon through and through.
Okay.
So
Red Dragon, what does that mean?
That's just their logo.
Oh, okay.
That's just their. Cortland and Ithaca have a really big Division III rivalry.
Okay.
In football, they had their game at the MetLife Stadium this year. So if you guys have a chance, check out Cortica Jug. It's pretty intense. Cortica is what it's called. It's the biggest little game in the country, is what they like to call it.
Oh, and it's good. And the reason why I asked you that too, because I've seen a lot of, especially when I was teaching now, I was working in the school system as a solid teacher for 3 years, but I've been working in this whole school system as a whole about 7, been working with kids about 10. So just seeing it over the years from age 4 to 17, I always tell people say that the broken homes and the parents getting divorced, that's the reason why kids are growing up so screwed. I tell people I always tell them this. From my experience, it's not the broken homes that make the kids, it's the broken parents. And I mean, I can clearly see that, you're an example of that, because it's like, you grow up, work hard, stuff like that. You still had structure. Like you said, when it came to the kids, your parents were like, hey, it's this, it's that. And then like you said, even having your grandparents, that's always, the best unit. So that's always good. So even if a lot of you'll hear people say, we stuck together for the kids and things like that. And I think that's kind of BS because it creates a toxic type of environment. And, the best thing is, as long as the kid has structure, consistency, it seems like that's what's the best in terms of that. What's your opinion on that?
Well, I do believe I believe that it takes a village to raise a kid. Right. If little Jimmy is going to have parents that split up,
right.
Okay. they don't get along, the child sees all of this stuff going on in the background, that's going to create some emotional trauma in that child's life in some way, shape, or form. It just depends on how are you going to mitigate those waves from rippling out further in their life.
Okay.
So I like to describe it as a drop of water, right? The water hits the waves, right? The ripple effect starts.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you stop those ripple effects from rippling into big things that develop later on in their life?
Okay.
Right. So
right.
you have a kid that develops from a father who is very abusive to their mother, or vice versa.
Right.
You know, a lot of relationships, the female is more abusive to the male as opposed to a male being more abusive to the female.
Yeah, we just talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Don't get canceled, Kyle.
But and that's just what statistics say.
Sure.
You know, and it's not even necessarily that it's physical abuse. It's verbal.
Right.
It's the emotional stuff that cuts really deep.
Facts, bro.
You know.
Facts.
So yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the more pillars that you have in the community, like, because I grew up in a small community that was less than 500 people, but everybody knew my family,
Right.
and I knew everybody else's family. I had multiple cousins that were in the neighborhood, and everybody kind of stuck together. And when I stepped out of line one time and was out doing something I shouldn't have been doing at night, and I got caught doing it, boom, the hammer came out of nowhere,
Yeah.
but I didn't get thrown in jail for it.
Right.
So there has to be
someone to basically, like enforce that accountability. And like you said, sometimes it doesn't even come from your parents. Sometimes it comes from, hey, you might see a neighbor that, hey, Kyle, you ain't supposed to be doing that, boy. Hey,
Right.
Kyle. But that's good though. And it's like, it was crazy. It seemed like we lost that, or that's getting definitely non-existent in a lot of communities as well. So that's huge.
Well, that's where that social fabric comes in.
Right.
Like when you have a community that's so intertwined, when they're going to social events, when they're going to church, when they're going to, being a part of things going on in the community, whether it's stuff with schools, plays, concerts, things like that, it intertwines people.
Mm.
And it's no coincidence that the church I say participation. The amount of people that go to church has declined dramatically over the past 20 years.
That's facts.
Is it any wonder that we have moral decay going on in the social fabric? And it's not to say that you have to go to church or you have to be a devout Christian, but to say that religion in itself doesn't have things that are important to society is nonsensical.
Yeah, because even when it comes to church and things like that, like you said, it's like one of those things to where we just had this conversation actually earlier today as well. But when it comes to church and stuff like that too, it's all has stuff to do with the community. You get what I'm saying? Like,
exactly. If
you go out here to this community event, let's say you have a neighborhood picnic that the neighborhood does. You know what I'm saying? Every single year, that's a big thing. If you don't go to that, it's like, and especially in a small town like yours, you got one or two churches or something. If you don't go to church, it's kind of like, And it's like, if you're just kind of being more and more secluded, like you say, you're not going out as much. People as a whole are not going out as much for online jobs, technology, whatever you want to call it. But that's definitely showing, like you said, a decline in the community, the social aspect. And, it's taking an effect definitely on our kids, man. Definitely, and it shows. So let's talk about it, man. So let's talk about you getting into being a teacher. So was it just something that you just always known you want to do? I know you said you always said it was the coolest job, but did you know that you actually wanted to actually get into teaching and be like, nah, I'm going to do this? Or it was like, how'd you come across it?
Well, for me, it was when I was going through a really tough time, kind of dealing with the divorce and everything else, and the kind of going back and forth, because at one point we lived in Massachusetts and New Hampshire for 5 years.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay.
And so when my parents split, I came back to my hometown, which was where I wanted to be. And then my dad still lived in Massachusetts, so we were going there every other weekend.
Oh, okay, wow.
Which is 5.5 hours.
I was about to say, okay, that was a drive.
It's a haul, man.
Okay,
so it's a lot for somebody that was my age, and my sister didn't want to go.
Right.
So by New York state law, my mom didn't have to force my sister to go.
Right.
So me, on the other hand, I could choose whether I wanted to go or not. And I wanted to go because I felt like, I don't know, it was my duty to.
Yeah.
And dealing with the trauma that kind of went about that, I kind of looked to other people to be role models in my life. So I looked up to, you know, one of my biggest men, and ironically, the person who did my student teaching with me was the same coach who I looked up to. And his name was Coach Sesh.
Okay.
That's his name.
Shout out, Coach.
Yep. And then Coach Kaufman was another guy. He's very, very big into lacrosse.
Okay.
You know, like, and I had a lot of role models around me that were able to not only keep me on the straight and narrow, but show me where the path was that I needed to keep going.
Yeah.
You know, and where if I busted my tail in practice, I got rewarded with more playing time. So that was reaffirmed in the actions that they took.
Okay.
Whereas if that doesn't happen and I don't get that playing time, or I don't get rewarded with some sense of either attention or a joke or whatever it may be.
They kind of gave you that blueprint, as in like, see, you get in what you put in.
Right.
And by you getting more playing time, it showed like, you start putting the correlation to your head. Dang, okay, I'm putting this amount of work in. Okay, this is offering this big of a return. But then when I start BSing, I'm getting this. So they kind of really put that in your head, like you really like getting what you put in.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And you think that kind of led you towards like the teaching route?
Yeah, because I knew what it meant for me. You know, I was, during that time in my life, I was very drawn off away from everybody else.
Okay.
I was very angry. Which also kind of dwelled into me getting into wrestling, which was a kind of a therapy for me.
Okay.
And just really quick, were you angry because of the divorce, or was it just
a lot of things?
A lot of things.
It was me being upset about the divorce. It was me being upset that the situation was the way it was. You know, my home life was not the greatest, you know, as it was, even with my parents split up, because both parents had their quirks and their issues. And, you know, it was a lot of stuff that was kind of.
And were you playing sports before high school, or high school was really, really when you got into, like you said, football and wrestling and everything?
Well, I started wrestling and playing football at a young age.
Okay.
And then when we moved away, it was shell shock, because, you know, like people up in New Hampshire and Massachusetts, they're not very kind to people that are from New York.
Right. Okay.
You know, just from the.
Why do you think that was?
Part of it is the sports rivalry.
Oh, okay.
But you know, Red Sox fans and Yankee fans don't
got you.
Yeah, and this was during the time that the 2007 comeback happened for Boston. So
okay.
So So, and it was a lot more than that. You know, it was just very different. Not even just in terms of culture. It was just very different in terms of like how they talked, what was important in the community. It was a soccer community.
Okay.
You know,
all that was like, what the heck is
right?
this?
Yeah. So they didn't have any football.
Yeah.
They didn't have any wrestling.
Wow.
So like all the stuff that I really enjoyed, it was just gone.
And during that time period, would you say that they just didn't have teams, or like you just kind of took a break from it?
They didn't have any teams.
They just didn't have anything. Like,
yeah, I mean, I tried soccer, hated it. Hated it. They didn't have any of the it didn't have any of the physical aspect to it. Baseball, I liked for a short period of time. Now that I'm an adult, I have much more of an appreciation for baseball.
Right.
You know, going through a baseball coaching clinic and
Okay.
seeing like, oh wow, they do all this, and like he has seconds to read to see what kind of pitch this is thrown. And,
yeah.
You know, like as a kid, you're just like.
What
picking dandelions out in the
like what?
Right,
yeah, that's
right.
waiting in the outfield.
Right. Yeah. It's boring. You
like,
know,
yeah.
as a kid, you're just like, especially as a young boy, you just 0 to 100 everywhere you go.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And then so when did you find like sports again? Did you move back to New York and started playing? And
yeah. So
what age was
because I've known a lot of these coaches ever since I was a little kid.
Okay.
You know, my dad was a JV football coach when I was in that school district.
Yeah.
So I've been around these guys, and they've been friends with my family for years.
Okay.
Right. So I naturally just felt comfortable, and I was like, you know what? I'm going out to play football. Let's go knock some heads together. And I've never really been the kind of person that I put out something today that I've never been the kind of person that has allowed fear to dictate how his life goes.
Right.
You know, like I've always been the kind of person that like if it's something that interests me, I'm going headstrong into it.
I respect that. Yeah.
You know, and I think that's the only way you should live life. So and it was the same way back then. Like when I was a kid, I dove headstrong into football, and then I immediately, you know, I don't remember how I switched over or what made me switch over to football or to wrestling as well. But then I switched over into wrestling, and I was like, man, I could really get used to this.
Yeah.
Like one of my friends from back in South Carolina who I learned from, you know, he was like, I just tell them I'm going to teach you how to beat people up, and I'm going to give you a high five because of it.
Okay.
I'm like, that's a great, that would have hooked me right there.
Yeah.
So you went on and then you graduated high school, played sports all 4 years and stuff like that? Or you just took some years off?
All 4 years football. I played modified in middle school for, I think, 2 years, 1 year.
And then so when you graduated, you knew that you was like strictly going into teaching, or was it one of the things where I'm gonna get my degree and it's kind of something, and teaching just kind of came along the way once you graduated college?
Well, I knew I wanted to get my liberal arts degree, just for something to have in the background.
Got you.
Because I thought it was just more, just in case a backup plan, something happens. But I pretty much knew from that point that I knew I was going to get into coaching and teaching in general.
Okay.
And you know, and then that's when I decided that I was going to go to SUNY Cortland, which was, you know, people don't know this, but there's different kinds of teaching schools that you can go to.
Okay.
And those teaching schools have more merit than others. SUNY Cortland and Brockport are.
And where is that located?
That's central New York. It's just south of Syracuse.
Okay.
SUNY Cortland and Brockport are the top tier when it comes to creating top of the line physical education teachers.
Okay. So you went there, graduated, and then how'd you end up in South Carolina?
I knew I kind of started becoming more aware of the cultural climate.
Okay.
And the politics of it all. Very, you know, I think my third or fourth year in college.
Okay.
And then that's when I started being more curious and listening to more, not even necessarily right-wing content. It was just listening to differences of opinion. And I was like, well, this doesn't make any sense. Why am I being taught this? Or why are...
You started questioning a lot more things.
Yeah. And, you know, up until that point, I'm not afraid to say I was, for the most part, kind of taught. I mostly just kind of was like, oh yeah, okay, so this is just the way things are,
right? Yeah,
you know, and you never really think about it until that red pill is kind of put in front of you, and it's just like,
real quick, give us some of those examples of like what you thought was reality, then you start listening to some of these different content. Like what's some ideas that changed in your mind? What do you think? You can probably be unfiltered. Go ahead. Right?
No. Like
Shattered Illusionz over here, but
right? So probably like the first one was just, you know, when you kind of go through high school, you get a really bad image of what religion is, I guess.
True.
You know, you get taught all of the bad things, but they never once talk to you about all the good that it does for people. Right, they don't talk to you about the number one most giving organization are evangelist Christians. In the world.
That is true. That's true. That is true.
You know, like religion is kind of looked at as though it's the enemy. So therefore I kind of took a step back away from religion.
Okay.
You know, whereas now that I've kind of grown up, but like the 3 years in the South has really like solidified me back into my faith.
Okay.
Well, I'll say this, bro. Like, Oliver and I were talking about this a little bit earlier too. Like, I definitely think that religion is definitely one of the cornerstones of just civilization, period. Because, like you said, it provides a certain amount of guidelines and rules people should strive to live by. And I think the reason people get turned away from religion a lot of the time is because they're not really sure. Because you're a Christian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So am I. They're not really sure what the Bible actually says about certain things.
Mm-hmm.
I always say, and shout out to our man D, we always say that we're not religious. We're more about relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So when you kind of have that relationship with Jesus Christ or whoever you decide to serve, it kind of removes that burden of kind of like you're kind of under constant scrutiny, if you know what I'm trying to say.
Right.
It kind of feels a little bit like a healthier kind of balance in life.
It doesn't make you feel as though you're under a contract.
Exactly.
Like
you
you
put that
have to
perfectly.
abide by these diktats. You have to.
Sure.
It's for me. I was a big history buff when I was in high school.
Okay.
Military, all of it, you name it. Ironically, my number one place that I wanted to go to was the Air Force.
Okay. Dang.
You wouldn't know it by how I look now, but I was super small. I was only like 165 pounds, back then.
Yeah.
And I was wrestling guys that were 180. But when I was kind of growing up, history was a big thing for me. And when I got older, that history really started to kind of come into play because I start to see things that are either things that you have seen in a history book that have happened before, or things that, wow, this is very, very similar.
Speaking facts,
history does repeat itself, and if it don't repeat itself, it definitely rhymes.
Mhm.
So that's true.
Yeah,
I like
That's
that.
true.
Yeah, that's true, bro.
Like in America, part of the reason why America is different from everybody else is not necessarily who we are as a people. It's what is underneath us as a people.
Right.
It's not the skin color. It's not who we believe. It's not. It's so much more deeper than that. It's two different things that are combined together that has never been done before in the history of mankind. You have a Judeo-Christian value system, a value system that upholds, honor thy father and thy mother.
Sure.
All of these very, very important things that even if you are not a religious person, you have to look at those and be like, yes, I have to structuring my house according to things.
Right.
Yeah. And then you have Greek and Roman logic. Those two things combine, you get the United States. You get Roman law.
That's interesting.
That's deep, bro.
Yeah,
I never thought about it
I
like
don't know
that.
about that either. Yeah, that's interesting.
And that in turn becomes Western civilization. And you see the eroding of Western civilization in today's society.
Talk about that every
It-
day.
It's like the farther, and I don't want to just keep harping on the whole religion thing, but it's like the farther we get away from God, so to speak, the worse this country and Western civilization gets, period. And it's really kind of sad. And just kind of going back to those moments you were talking about, like basically kind of unlearning some of the things that you were taught. Because from my perspective, like when I start listening to these like kind of more leaning profiles and stuff like that, I'm the kind of person that I don't want you to confirm what I'm saying. I want to see what the other side's saying and like see if they have some kind of point to something like that.
Right.
Like, for example, me personally, as a black man, I was taught mostly by my mom that Republicans are the freaking devil. The white man is trying to keep you down. Black people are just oppressed. And I'm not saying, of course, there are some racist people here. I'm not going to sit here and say that there's not. But when I start listening to people just saying, you know what, at the end of the day, your life is your responsibility. At the end of the day, whatever happens to you, it shouldn't define you, but it should propel you forward. My life started getting better. I stopped becoming a victim 24/7.
Exactly.
So
yeah, I fully agree with everything you said, especially because now that I've been, I kind of get like a unique perspective in the sense that like I grew up in the way frigid north, like where they're getting pummeled with snow right now. You're like, wow, that place looks like it sucks. Yeah, it does.
Quick side note: we just came from Buffalo in like October. In October, I would not wish going there on my worst enemy. I'm sorry, Buffalo. It's boring. I'm sorry, but go ahead, Kyle.
Oh yeah, you're 100% true, man. I grew up just north of Syracuse on the other side of Ontario, and it is just like 6 feet of snow in a night is not something
ridiculous, bro. Ridiculous.
But yeah, I know, like, a lot of people, like you were saying, like a lot of truths and stuff like that. I think us around the same time, it kind of started happening for me. Definitely a lot, like outside of high school, when I really started questioning, like you said, listen to a lot of like more right conversations and listen. My thing was about money. I wanted to make money. So I'm like, hold
That's
on.
where I'm at in my life,
Something's wrong here.
Yeah,
I said,
facts.
this person's doing this, but like you said, my mom putting these ideas in my head and stuff. But I'm like, but they have more money than you. And you know, she get mad and stuff. But I mean, like but it's the truth. So I'm like, there has to be something in their thinking that we're not doing. And you know, I would listen to them. Sometimes you don't get it. But you know, my thing is like you said, you try to hear everybody's stuff out and make your conclusion yourself, because there comes a point in time in your life where you can't keep blaming the man. You can't keep saying it's Trump. You can't keep saying it's the trash man. Like, it has to be you after a while.
And I think that if people just kind of challenge their ideas a little bit more, this country and this world would be a better place. Because I'm gonna be honest with you guys, it came to a point after bad things started happening to me, I almost became an atheist.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna lie to you.
It's easy to do that
because like it is, but I'm gonna go back to that in a second. But people believe in God just because they were told to believe in God.
Facts.
The reason I believe it with God now is because I've experienced him, and also I've gone to the other side and said, yeah, they have a couple of points, but at the end of the day, some of that stuff doesn't make sense. Like, I know for a fact that you can't tell me that God's not real.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
I just think that challenging ideas, and that's kind of why we create this platform too, just Shattering Illusionz. Like, basically, let's challenge each other's ideas. Let's have a conversation. And you know, our big thing is the whole men and women versus thing. That gets the clicks and everything like that. But I'm of the idea that men ain't shit, women ain't shit. Let's sit down and have a conversation about it.
Really, the world ain't shit, because anytime you put money involved, that's when shit starts getting really all fucked up. In the pharmaceutical industry, I seen that at a young age. You know what I mean? So, you know, my sister was real sick, real short. She was real sick and she needed a bone marrow transplant. I was about 8 or 9 at the time. My sister, she's 6 years younger than me. So she was little. She was in the hospital about 9 months or so. And I remember my parents, they, you know, scavenged around. Father had to pick up another job just to get another insurance, you know, because they ran out of insurance money on the first one. So it's like they scavenging trying to get money for this transplant. I'm just like, in my head, I'm thinking as a kid, you're a doctor. Aren't you supposed to help? You know what I'm saying? But bone marrow transplants are expensive. You got to find a donor. It's a huge process. But the whole point about it is, I'm like, this doctor is going to let my sister die because we don't have money. It was hard for me to put that together as a kid. You get what I'm saying? But that's when I started kind of going, fuck these niggas. I was like, I don't like doctors. I don't like nurses. I don't like none of them.
People will get bankrupt off of medical bills. And that's a very common occurrence.
Yeah.
But then people will try to say, like, you know, oh, they're trying to help. In some instances, okay. You know what I'm saying? I still think we do need them to an extent.
Sure.
But especially a lot of stuff is coming out now that, you know, herbs and stuff like that. My whole point about it is, though, is that it's corruption everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And the biggest thing is, like, you know, just like you say, shattering these illusions, man, putting the truth out there. And I think that's good that, you know, you actually took a step back and you actually evaluated. And you said, you know, let me just not throw it all away, but let me just take a step back, look, evaluate, and you know, that's definitely you know, like just respectable, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah. And really, you look at you just kind of going back to what you had said about corruption, right? What does that all dwell down to? Choice.
Facts.
Choice. Facts. That's true.
Personal choice. You are and look, like when my parents split up, we were living at my grandparents' house. We didn't have 2 pennies to rub together. Like, we were sleeping on air mattresses. And so when somebody says to me, and I've had the people say this to me, you know, oh, that's just your privilege talking. And I immediately sit there and say, was it privilege when I was sleeping on an air mattress? Was it privilege when my grandfather, a 75-year-old man, and I had to build a shop for my mom to do her business because she couldn't do it in her own home?
Right. And see, that's crazy, man. And then we was talking about a lot of stuff, but you know, quick thing, and then we'll get to the school system. But that's crazy because we talk about that. I tell people, like, a lot of times, I'm gonna just pretty much just say it. I feel like a lot of black people are more racist sometimes than white people. Than I feel like white people are to black people, because it's like, what would make somebody say something like that? Every you know, Caucasian person is not privileged. Everybody has struggles. You know what I'm saying? From whatever. So it's like, just the fact that they just, oh, that's your privilege talking. They don't know you. They don't know what you've been through. They don't know any of that. And it's just sad that someone would just come up to you and just say that and make that assumption. Like, that's bullshit.
People make the same assumption because it's called the Apex Fallacy. Because the majority of people who are in power are white men. A small minority of those people are white men. Yeah. They assume that all white men are like that. And it's just like chicks. they because they see Drake, Future, Trey Songz, and Dave East, they think
They
that
think
all
dudes
men are
is
like
that.
Yeah.
It's
And
not
all
like
dudes
that.
can get chicks like that.
It's
Right.
not like that.
Or they all have. Like I watched a TikTok the other day, and bro, Nicole, my fiance's reaction told me the whole story, and this is how I know I'm with somebody that is very down to earth.
Mm.
It was these two guys that were talking about. They were kind of watching this video about what this girl thought her ideal man, if all things being equal, how much he would need to bring home in order for her to have a happy life, in order for her to submit to him.
Right.
How much you think she said?
On TikTok?
Mm-hmm.
Probably like maybe something like 300K.
Okay, so 300K for you.
I'm gonna be a little bit more conservative and say maybe 150.
150K.
Skylar, you want to answer this?
Probably about 100K.
100K.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, she's gonna say like 200K, right? No, she said 650K. Bro, I knew it was crazy because Nicole even goes.
Hold on, I got a sound effect for you.
She belongs to the streets.
Bro.
My thing is like when girls say this stuff, who are the type of people that make that type of money? You know what I'm saying? They don't ever question that. Like, there's not too many professions you can get in that's bringing in 650K unless you're in something in sales, and not even all sales will make that. Or scamming
Consistently or something.
Yeah, consistent. Yeah,
like you look at like cybersecurity. Like I looked into like changing out of teaching into cybersecurity, bro. The highest level cybersecurity, you're making 350K. That's a lot. That's a lot of money.
Sure.
Yeah, but 650. That's still not even hitting that.
Right.
Surgeons are making like 500K. You know, I mean, it's just they're just saying stuff.
The number 3 most highest paid person in South Carolina right now is the superintendent of one of the schools in South Carolina.
Oh boy.
Okay. This dude makes so much money. Okay. He's the number 3 highest. He still makes only 300. I say only 300. Yeah, 350K.
It's like a girl now, Kyle.
Bro, what?
Yeah, man. So that's what I'm saying. It's like a lot of people just crazy. But just speaking on to the corruption and stuff like that. So what has been your experience as far as like, I know we've taught in different areas. You're more down south than me. I'm kind of talking more in the metropolitan area. But what's been your experience in terms of like how they're teaching kids a whole? And then we'll get into boys specifically. But how do you feel like in terms of like how they're teaching kids? Oh, how do you like feel about it?
Well, I had like I said, I had a unique perspective in the sense that like before, like after I got out of college and I did my student teaching, I was substitute teaching for a year.
Okay.
In 3 different areas. One was a rural area. The other one was a little bit more rural. And then the other one was a city.
Okay.
And so I kind of got a bird's eye view of what it was like in a blue state. And then I go to a red state. And now I work in a very metropolitan area. You know, the just in general, it's very diverse in what you're going to get.
Right.
But even then, the amount of I want to say there's no other way to put it. The amount of failure that you see in the school system itself is just it's
failure in terms of what you would say. Failure in terms of like just having like resources, or failure in terms of like test scores, or like failure in terms of. So
I'm not gonna say that all of this is a school thing, because you have to have the resources and like you can't sit there and look at school in part B and school in part A, and part A has more funding because of the tax base that they're able to draw from.
True.
That the success of A has nothing to do with their funding. That would just be nonsensical.
Mm-hmm.
But you can also, and I'm also a big fan of this, the school culture comes into play. That's so important, because how you dictate how the school goes and the culture in which is promoted in the school tends to bleed out into the community, which is a good thing. They're looking at competitiveness is looked at as a bad thing. Thinking for yourself is seen as a bad thing. Really having a dual dynamic in the sense of like what worked for me. So like my grandfather was not a harsh person, But when he said to me, Kyle, I'm very disappointed in you, and he was somebody that looked up to me, I took that very, very seriously.
Yeah.
5 minutes later, after I had thought about it, my grandfather didn't hesitate to come on over and put his arm around me. You have to have that, I'm going to put the hammer down, but you also have to have the component of, listen, come here. Do you understand the reason why I did what I did?
Kind of that balance, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't see that in schools.
And let me stop you right there. And that's for some reason why I tell people this all the time. A lot of time we get into it with the girls because all these girls, I'm not saying it's intentional, but everybody wants to be masculine nowadays. And I say this all the time. I say people don't understand the power of a feminine woman because, like you said, being in school, I've seen it. There's just certain things that, and we can get into this subject later, that I just can't do. There's a certain tone I just don't have in my voice. There's certain things that when you're crying, it's just not in me that Miss Jekyll just has. You get what I'm saying? She's just got that magic touch. Hey, Sonny, how are we doing today? Oh, we messed up. I'm not doing that. You get what I'm saying? It's like, so a lot of with the masculinization, I would say, of women and stuff like that, we're really losing that nurturing, and not even just in the schools, but even like in the homes. And that's why I try to say, like, that's so important that people, you know, and I think until you really see it for yourself and see it in person or in a school, or you see how it affects a child development, you really don't get how important a nurturing woman really is. Because like you said, you got to have both. You got to have that hammer, but then you also got to have the, you know.
And that's where that 2-parent household comes in, man. You see it, and I see it all the time, especially in my younger students. You see the effect across the board.
Yep.
White, black, Hispanic, it does not matter. The difference that you see between kids that grow up in a 2-parent household in a stable relationship, where the father is the masculine, the female is the feminine, and they play off of each other in a system.
Right.
It's completely different from a single mom or a single dad.
Yeah.
And
then what was you about to say?
No, go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
No, I mean, and then even going that, and I think what you said was big. Even with school systems and stuff like that, you know, a lot of times too, a lot of people like to blame a lot of things on funding and stuff like that. But I can just speak on what I've seen. I've seen principals embezzle money. You know, I've seen principals take money specifically out of a PD teacher's budget, basically set some stuff up. So the PD teacher's out on leave, takes advantage of the budget. They said she paid her bills with it. I'm not going to go that far. I don't know what she did with the money. But then she returned it back like this thing is like a PPP loan or something. Like it's just like it's crazy. Like I've seen this stuff firsthand. I done seen kids out there washing cars all day for a car wash, or they out there selling Girl Scout cookies to try to, you know, like basically like get money for a trip or something like that. And then I see like, okay, now let's take 20% off of there, and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong? Like just seeing these things, and I'm just like, but then people will come up and say, oh, we don't have the money for this. Oh, we don't have the money to get more books. Oh, we don't have the money to get buses so we can take them to a field trip that could show them something outside of the projects. It's very sad when you see that stuff firsthand, and you see that it's some of the teachers in the school that's behind it, I've rarely seen it from the teachers, usually from the admin on up, from what I've seen from superintendents and, you know, stuff like that, like on up. You know, I don't know what you've seen, but I mean, like I said, I've seen a lot of crookedness.
I can give you some examples here in a second, but I think TK wanted to say something.
Oh no, I was just trying to let you guys cook because I really don't know anything about this. I'm just curious.
Oh no, yeah, you good. Like, and that's another thing is like discipline is not. So you start to see what you see in the culture, the softness that you see in the culture, and I want to use the word soft because it is soft. You know, you see it in elementary schools.
Yeah.
You know, a kid. I'll give you an example. I was substitute teaching one time. And this kid was throwing a desk around the room. No joke. This kid is in 4th grade. You know, throwing his desk around the room. I say throwing it around. He was flipping it and everything else. But where is the accountability for that kid?
All right.
You know what they did?
What's that?
They walked into the room. Okay, so they called the admin. Right? The admin comes in. He says, oh, you had a bad day today. All right, come on, let's go to my office. And you know what they do in the office? They'll sit there and do puzzles, Play-Doh,
give them candy
to calm them down. Then we'll send him back to the class as though nothing's wrong.
And flips another desk.
And then he flips another desk. And you wonder, what's that? What does anybody know the definition of insanity?
Doing the same thing over and over
Man,
again, expecting
oh
different
my
results.
gosh. And that this was the thing that actually made me leave. It was 3 instances in the same year. And this is when I really seen, I'm like, I seen more crooked things with money, but when I seen where this was going, I said, I gotta get me out of here. This is in trouble. This is gonna get me in trouble. Like, so I got pulled into the office a lot of times because a lot of people talk to me about my tone. They would say, "Oh, your tone is too loud. You got to get down on your level and all this stuff."
I've been told that too. Don't worry. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's like the thing about it is people don't understand. They always say, "Oh, we need more males. We need more males." But then when you get males, you want them to be chicks. You want to be girls. if I'm just being honest, if you want me to be like Miss Fernandez, you need to hire another one of her. Don't get me. So that's one thing. But the second thing that I seen was I would see a lot of girls planting stuff on teachers. I worked in a couple middle schools as well. And I remember one time, I don't even want to get into it, but a teacher had caught me. It was actually, I didn't do nothing bad, but I was saying it was like something where it was like, yo, man, you just need to be careful. You know what I'm saying? Just like being in the 8th grade hallway, you young and stuff like that. I was like, because I've seen people literally planting stuff on teachers. Oh, he touched me this way. Or, oh, he did this way. And the teacher might have just came up to him and just gave him like a high five or something. I mean, something crazy. Mm-hmm. And then next thing, this is in elementary school. I seen exactly what you said. One instance, a little girl threw some juice on another girl. And I was like, whoa. But this is what I heard the principal say. Oh, nah, hey, for the, man, look, my end of the year evaluation coming up. We trying to keep the suspensions low because they get bonuses off of them keeping the suspensions low. So they say, oh, yeah, no.
That's what they told us too. We have to keep the suspensions low because it makes the school look bad.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, so you would rather your school look really good. So you would rather the billboard look really good, but the content behind the billboard be absolute
it'd be hell. They
trash.
was throwing shit. I'm just like,
okay.
And then this was the last one. It was this one boy, 4th grade. He came up and he hit the PE teacher. I just see all the kids running around, and I'm like going out of class. They're like, "Oh my god, he got hit!" I'm thinking kids are fighting, so I go down there. I'm running, so I'm going to the classroom and stuff, and I just see the teacher just on the chair like this, just like. I'm like, "You all right?" He just said, "Man, he just decked me, man." I was like, "The kid?" I was like, "What did they do?" Exactly what you said. Oh my god, come here! I'm sorry, you had a bad day. Bro. That was expulsion back in the. You hit a teacher,
bro. Okay. I don't think people today understand how crazy our parents were when they were younger, bro. If my mom,
teacher, bro.
if I got a phone call, if my mom got a phone call from the landline phone from the school,
facts.
Hey, Kyle hit a teacher. Do you have any idea what would have happened
My
to me?
mom would have chokeslammed me. It wouldn't even been funny. I'm telling you right now.
Oh my
man, hit a teacher, bro. Like I said, this stuff is next level. But like you said, it's all a game. Hey, look, we got to keep the suspensions down. You know what I'm saying? The second quarter's going over. It looks good. It's going to hurt my bonus. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, once I started seeing all this, I said, okay, this is bullshit. Mm-hmm. The way that this is going, it's just, like you said, it's just no accountability. We're just going to make a whole rack of crazy kids that can't control themselves. That just act on their impulses.
And,
no structure.
And that's the thing too, man. Like I've talked with my wrestlers, man, where I incorporate a lot of the Jordan Peterson stuff into what I believe every day.
Who also was canceled, but shout out Jordan. We love you, man.
Shout out, man. He's the GOAT.
Yeah, definitely.
Hell yeah. I'm telling my guys, I'm like, I'll have a kid where you can see he sees red and he just loses himself in his anger. And I'll pull him off to the side and I'll be like, listen, if you need to go calm down, that's one thing. I'm not going to tell you that that's a bad thing. The emotions you're feeling they're not a bad thing. But you have to learn control. You have to have control over that. You can't be Kratos and God of War destroying everything in your path out of pure vengeance and anger.
And that's another thing that I think that a lot of people, they underestimate how strong and how angry and how much rage these men and boys have in them. It's different with a woman. And a lot of times women will say, oh, I can raise my son. I don't need my father. No, he needs his dad. And the reason why I say that is because you don't know how much testosterone and rage he has. You can say to a woman, just express yourself, baby girl. Feel it out.
Yes,
Feels
queen.
great. Yes, you good, queen. You know what I'm saying? But that's fine. But if you tell a boy, just let it all out, he'll destroy this whole fucking setup. He'll destroy everything. You cannot tell a boy just act on how you feel. No. And that's what goes to what you said.
And I've told them that.
cannot do
I've
that.
said,
They'll
listen,
end up in
man,
jail.
if you, and that's what I told them. I'm like, bro, you got to understand that there's bigger implications to your anger than what is going on right here, right now. I said, in society, you don't get a second chance.
Your mama gives you second chance. Society don't. Exactly.
You don't get, because, and this is this is something that I don't necessarily talk about, but I had an issue with a girl in high school. She threatened some stuff on me.
Yep.
And thank God my mom believed in me. My family believed in me. My friends believed in me because it didn't happen. She had said, quote unquote, forcefully touching. And that was immediately when my mom was like, lawyer. And I could tell you this right now, didn't happen at all. And this is where the men and women thing really kind of comes into play for me, is because that could have ruined my life.
Oh, I've seen it, and it's actually someone that I've actually I actually talked to him. Of course, I'm not gonna put his name out, but yeah, he actually went through a case this year, and it was in a college, you know. And what happens is they're holding his degree, didn't do it, right? And then the crazy part about it is, but you know, boo-hoo, all this other stuff. It got to the point where basically the college is like this. Like I said, this goes back to school. This is how they think. They're in the background saying, okay, the proof came out, she didn't do it. Like the whole Tory Lanez and Megan incident, we clearly know nothing on the gun, but that's a whole nother conversation. But my whole point about it is they basically came to the point in the background that, okay, he didn't do it. Okay, shit. But we can't sit up here and let a girl call rape, or we can't let a girl, we can't let a girl call this, and then dang, it looks bad on us. They start thinking politics. She called this just the allegation, it looks bad. So they start saying, let's go ahead and find him guilty. You get what I'm saying? Because that makes it seem like they did something.
Right.
And then
he can just be the sacrificial lamb.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
Besides, he's the oppressor anyway.
Exactly. They don't care about you. And that's what I said when it comes to, that goes to another thing with these boys. Be very careful with these women. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to watch everything that you do. And then, like you said, even in high school, stuff like that, it's so easy for a guy to get in trouble nowadays. It's so easy. You know what I'm saying?
And I tell my wrestlers all the time, man, I'm like, you have to use wrestling as a way to channel your aggressive energy. And you have to channel it in a way of discipline. You have to, because if you don't, that's gonna wind you up in prison, bro.
Gonna wind you up in prison. And then the thing is that we talk about, oh, men are responsible for this and that. It's just like crazy. Me and TK talk about this all the time. The most dangerous men are emotional men that don't have school shooters. Emotional men. That's an emotional man. You took him too. Every boy feels that inside, but not everybody does it because they have control. If you tell all these boys out here, oh, just act on how you feel, they gonna all go home get an AK-47. Oh, that bitch kissed somebody and I got her a present. Man, let me go kill this motherfucker. That's how boys think. And people don't understand the type of rage men really have in them. And I think women think that we think like them. Like, no, an instinct for a woman is to cry. An instinct for a man is to kill. And that's just in our animal instincts and the genetic makeup of a man. So it's very dangerous. You know, you have to be really, really on top of, like you said, I love what you do with your wrestlers and stuff like that. You have to be real in touch with, oh, bro, this can lead you into other places that you just don't want to be.
Right. You have to have not just as a coach, but as a teacher.
Yep. And
part of being a teacher, and I've been told like I would be a good father someday too. Like someday you have to think long term. You have to think 20 miles down the road, because it's not about what happens here and now. It's not just, oh, you snuck a piece of candy out of the candy jar and I caught you. It's far more reaching than that.
Exactly.
And it's like when it comes to finances, if you put an investment down right now, you're looking at what's the return on my investment later.
Yeah.
When it comes to kids, you have to I think this stems from a much deeper problem.
Mm-hmm.
I think this stems from a much deeper problem in the sense of we become so individualized as a society that we have forgotten two very basic things: duty and honor.
Yep.
You have listen, we have rights. Okay. I look at it this way. I have a right to say what I want to say.
Right.
But I also have a duty to use that speech well.
Right. True.
If I have a responsibility to my fellow man or woman to protect them.
Right.
But I have a duty to myself to make sure they're not taking advantage of me.
Right.
And people have forgotten that it's not a one-way street anymore.
Yep.
It's not, it has to be a two-way street. It's become a one-way street now.
Yep.
Where it's like, what can you do for me?
Exactly.
You know, like with the stuff over the pandemic, you saw the stuff that went on with school teachers in New York City.
Yeah. Yeah.
When we knew very early on that this was not a major vector of transmission.
Yep.
And I'm sitting there in my school in South Carolina, where I'm like, you mean to tell me that this is not going to have ripple effects down the line?
Yeah, and that's how they don't think, Kyle. And that's the sad part. They don't think. And I'll go into a little bit more about it. I might get canceled for this next comment, but it's the truth. At the end of the day, self-accountability is usually brought on by who? Masculinity. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of the time, with all this femininity, I don't need no man. They don't understand how you're damaging your child and how you're damaging people, and even just doing things like you're hitting a PE teacher or you going off, and then you see these people throwing juices. All this stuff, like you said, we look at things completely different from how women look at it. We look at it as, oh, he's having a bad day. I'm looking at it as like, yo, if he goes up and he does that to a cop, or if he goes up and he does that to, like, you know what I'm saying, some chick he's dating when he's 20.
Just like, a guy on the street.
Just a guy you could get killed easy just because you cannot control your emotions. And it's just very, very, very unfortunate that, like you said, going to duty, going to things like responsibility, everybody's allergic. Had to. Hey, that ain't me. Ain't got nothing to do with me. And to me, these are just all very, I'm not trying to say it's women, but I'm just saying these are very feminine traits. We all have masculine and feminine traits, but they're very feminine traits. Oh, not my fault. Oh, it's not this. It's like, oh, where's your duty? Where's your honor? Usually that's brought on by, you know what I'm saying, the men. But I think with the decline of these weak men that we have nowadays, that stuff like that is not being enforced.
Well, I'll kind of clarify it a little. I know exactly what you were going to say. It's a lack of putting kids in uncomfortable situations.
Exactly.
Right. So like when I was in wrestling, right, and I wanted to wrestle at the tournament the next day, my mom and my grandfather, and then eventually my stepdad was like, if you want to wrestle, you can't eat tonight in order to make weight.
Yeah, exactly.
And you got to suffer a little bit.
Yep.
But they also understood that suffering meant that I'm making a self-sacrifice now for something long-term in the future. You know it from business. You know, you sacrifice the nice dinner tonight for a nice house later.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to, man. Is it's a lack of self-accountability. It's a lack of accountability with parents. And these parents, I call them parents. They're not. I don't like to call them parents because they go into it with the wrong mindset. They
go into it like, let me show my baby off on Instagram. Let me show off he's on honor roll. And really, he's not really on honor roll. But he looks cute on his first day of school. But then when I call you because he's acting up, you don't ever pick up. What a parent! I get what you're saying. Yep. Those types.
I've had parents when I've talked, their kid really acted up in class or whatever, and I like to think of myself firm, but I'm fair.
Right.
That's fair.
I put myself in a lot of these situations like, is this anything worse than what I did in school?
Yeah.
And I try not, and I have a saying in my class, keep small things small. Don't turn big things and don't turn small things into big things. When a kid steps out of line or messes up, okay, just keep it a small thing. Get back in line. You're good.
That's it.
That's it. And a lot of these kids, they don't understand that if they have a mess up, if they messed up one part of the day, that the whole day's not
all fucked up. Let's throw it all away.
And you see that in men and women today.
Mm-hmm.
They can't. One thing goes wrong in the day. Oh, my life's messed up.
One thing goes wrong on your diet. Oh man, it's all shit. One thing go wrong in your business. Oh man, that's why I don't do this. Oh man, no, I get completely what you're saying. One thing, you just throw it all the fucking way. It's like, dog, where does that get you in life? Giving up will get you nowhere.
Exactly.
Nowhere. And it's like that perseverance, like you said, that suffering, and even just that ability to readjust. It's definitely lost, something that we're definitely missing. And you know, it's gonna be long-term effects. And you know, I was talking to TK about the social science experiment that I seen with mice, and it basically described kind of like a similar duo to what we have now. A lot of, you know, strong women, a lot of weak men, and then it lead to like the mice not wanting to reproduce. And then this basically finished off with the collapse of the society.
And you're seeing that with the declining birth rates.
Yep.
You know,
you're seeing that with
you're
the
seeing
lack of
that
marriages.
they're bringing in people from other countries, the immigrant crisis that you're seeing right now. You're seeing them coming in because they're replacing, they need people to replenish the birth rates.
Right.
Because if you notice, these people that are coming in, I don't know if you've ever seen like a traditionally Hispanic family. They have a lot of kids.
Oh yeah.
They're also very conservative.
That's true. That's true.
So, and I think part of the thought process is behind this is that they're trying to get these families in here because they know deep down they have the public school system that will essentially liberalize these kids.
Well, you figure 12 years of Johnny, sit down. Johnny, act more like the girls. Johnny, stand in line. Johnny this, Johnny this, Johnny this. And then he gets applauded. Oh, see, Johnny, when she treats you like a doormat and you treat her like a queen. Yes, Johnny, that's what you need to do. You figure 12 years of programming like that. By the time Johnny's a grown-ass man, he a bitch watching this shit, trying to figure out what the hell wrong with him. And he got depression and suicide.
Heck yeah, man. He's a simp. And he wonders why. Like, that was me. That was me in community college. Right. I had a girl and you know, I've told my fiance this. You know, I had a girl that looked at me. You know, I was like I said, I was 160 pounds. I'm small by male standards. I didn't know what it meant to work out or anything like that. You know, and I thought, you know, if I ran enough, I would have a six pack. And she would want to.
She would like you.
She would like me more.
Yeah.
She looked at me and she was like, if you were to get a six pack, we would be hooking up all the time.
Mm-hmm.
What is that supposed to say to me as a kid who's, I don't know, I was like 19 at the time, 18, 19 at the time, you know, and that's the reality of it, man.
Yeah.
Like the failures of the public school system are basically that they give you nothing that's going to work for you in the future to give you the tools to be successful.
Nothing.
It's to move you on to the next level.
Yep. It's
like, okay, so the kid that is throwing desks around, we're then just going to push him on into the next grade.
And whole kid's back,
and he's not our problem anymore.
Yep.
Well, it's like, okay, so if he's not our problem, then whose problem is he? He becomes the society's problem as a whole.
Yep. And then also too, you'll talk about in the book of Jim Crow, you know, they actually look at the reading and math scores for kids for 3rd and 4th grade.
Yep.
And they look and say, hey, if these kids are basically not on point by 3rd or 4th grade with math and reading, statistics show that they have a 61% more likely that they will be in jail. And what they do is they make jails off of those. So they're saying when this kid that's throwing desk around, he's a dumb fuck. So basically what's going to happen is, when he's 18, can't control himself, he's going to be in jail. Jail's big business. Storm in the locker. Fuck it. You know what I mean? And that's where a lot of this shit leads. Yep. And that's where they want it to go.
Right.
Oh yeah, let's just this little urban kid. Man,
because then you do turn people into victims.
Exactly. And
like
then
you see that with the prison population now, where they're like, I can't remember the candidate's name that was running in Pennsylvania. He's like, we should let out 3/4 of the prison population.
Yep.
Like, are you insane? Like,
I seen that. You're talking about the one that's like in Chicago, Illinois, the joint where they said they was going to release.
It was Fetterman. That's what his name was.
Oh, okay.
Fetterman.
Yeah.
So I've been.
I'm like,
it's freaking crazy, man. But
I'm all for listening to different ideas, but I'm not. But when you throw nonsensical, like, oh, you're a bad person. If you see it all the time in today's society, like, you're a bad person. Like, this happened to me. I shared a video on my podcast talking with Fresh and Fit that was talking about when men become real men, and they
shout out Fresh and Fit.
Heck yeah.
Shout out.
When you have men that become real men that are true in their masculine, you know, non-agreeable, you know, not apologetically a man, what you end up having is you don't have these situations that develop later on in life.
No.
And it takes the sexual power out of a female's hands.
Yeah.
In the sense that, like, women tend to hold the sexual power of having sex with somebody over the man to get them to do what they want.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So if you do the honey-do list, then I'll hook up with you.
Exactly.
Right. Which is not because men and women don't value things the same way.
Right.
Men value 3 things: peace and quiet. Right. So like when I see my fiance,
Yeah.
she doesn't bring chaos to my life.
Right.
She brings peace.
Mm-hmm.
When I see my fiance, is she attracted to me? Does she respect me? Right? Those 3 things I value more than anything else.
Yep.
And I would stand in front of her and take a bullet for her.
There we go.
Right?
Yep.
Whereas she values loyalty, respect on her end, and love.
Right.
And women need love.
They do. And that's why a lot of people also don't get it as well. We are wired different. You know what I'm saying? When women try to, man, you got to be down here when we got these girls, man. Goodness gracious. They try to have arguments with me all day about, like, why do you want more than one woman? Why do you think it's okay to, I'm like,
because
listen,
it's biologically and driven in us.
They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. But the number one need, and nobody wants to admit it, the number one need for a man is sex. That's the number one. Well, it shouldn't be that way. Well, that's how it is. Like, you get what I'm saying? The number one need for a woman is affection. We're completely different. Number 2 thing that a man needs, respect. Like you said, if there's no respect, the relationship's dead. It's done.
Exactly.
It's done. Honestly, men need sex, number 1, but if you don't have the respect, the sex ain't gonna happen. So that's number 1. That's the next one. So and then like you said, men need also loyalty as well. So it's like at the same time, it's like, you know, people they try to compare both genders like we're the same, and it's like everybody forgets that, okay, if we're looked at as robots, I'm the male model, you're the female model, we're both robots, but our wiring is different. And I think everybody wants to say that you shouldn't be this or shouldn't be that, or it's just stupid, you know.
Well, and that's where that sexualization idea in schools has kind of come into play.
Right.
Like I did an episode on my podcast where I talked about the sex ed curriculum in this Illinois school district.
Oh,
right?
boy, that's bold.
Yeah. I mean, and look, to me, I understand that some things are taboo to talk about now because of how social media is.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't continue to push the envelope and tell that and continue to push your message out,
Yep.
nothing's ever going to get done about
Nothing.
it. And so I was talking about, and literally going through step by step, the actual curriculum from what I know as a teacher, right? And so from K to 2, typically the way they break it up is it's kindergarten to 2nd grade, and then and it goes from third to 5th.
Use 3rd to 5th, yeah.
Yep, and then it goes 6 to 8, and then 9 to 12,
Mm-hmm.
right? My goal was to look at elementary because most people don't know this, but in the first 6 years of a child's life are the most important. Which is why there's still people that are grown adults today that still deal with stuff that went on in their first 6 years of life.
People don't understand that. Yep.
And so in the first 6 years, right, kindergarten, 2nd grade, I was reading this curriculum, right? They were sending diagrams home to kids to fill out of the genitalia of a man and a female. This was in Illinois, right? Now, there has to be a partnership between teachers and parents.
Yeah,
they have to work together.
They do.
Right? If I call about little Jimmy being bad in my class, the parents, the number one thing I love to hear from a parent is, I will take care of it. Thank you very much. Feel free to call anytime.
Yep.
Right? And that's when I always reply when I get that kind of answer. We're in this together.
Yep.
We got this. This kid's going to be a great citizen someday.
It will. Yep.
Click. That's it. Right? What if you've ever met a kindergarten to 2nd grader, you know that they are incredibly impressionable. Little Joey will come up to you. I'm a cowboy.
Yep.
Like, no, Joey, you are not a cowboy.
Facts.
Right? But that's part of the reason why this whole thing has kind of developed.
Right.
Is because when they're impressionable like that, bro. When I was a kid, I couldn't even get an ibuprofen from the high school office for a headache. Now they are doing things in schools that it's like, do the parents know about this? No, it's kind of under the table. So to speak. Excuse me?
That's why I tell people, watch where you put your kids, man.
And it's people don't know this, but it's split up into DEI. Okay. And DEI stands for diversity, inclusion, or diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Okay.
And it's masked in this really nice language where it's like, oh, we're teaching kids to be accepting of everybody. Okay. I'm going to be accepting of everybody to the point where it starts to get a little crazy. Okay. But the reality is when you are teaching kids things that are just naturally going to confuse them, all you're going to get is confusion from them in the splitting up between them and their parents.
Yep.
So you have to look at the situation and be like, okay, so what is the goal here? Why are we promoting this kind of stuff in schools? What's the overall goal?
The overall goal is to make them into citizens that are sick, victimized, and easily controllable.
Correct.
Weak-minded.
Correct.
That's the goal. Let's give them this pill. Oh, you feel depressed? It's because you ain't got this pill, Johnny. Oh, you feel depressed? You got the depression disease. No such thing. You can, like I said, I agree with Andrew Tate on this. You can feel depressed, but depression as a like labeled disease, but that's bullshit. You're in a depressive situation. It happens.
It's a mindset.
It is.
And the way I like to kind of add on to what you said, like the kind of way I kind of think about it is depression is a symptom of you being out of line with the universe.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Right. So God has a particular plan for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's your job to figure out what that plan is in life. And ultimately, what it comes down to is if you are doing something that is out of line with what God's plan is for you, it naturally you're going to have feelings of I don't feel sure about myself.
That's fine.
I'm out of whack. I don't feel like it. And you start to question all of these things about yourself instead of questioning the path that you're on.
Yep.
Right. It's always like we always turn inward as people in general. You know, if I do something wrong, I naturally look inward as opposed to looking outward. Yep. And so instead of asking questions about ourselves, we don't look at the situation we don't look at the path that we're on. Like, is this the right path for me? And do like really hardcore, like reflective, critical thinking of ourselves. Yep. Like if I mess up and I look at myself in the mirror and I'd be like, damn, man, like you really effed this up. You know what I mean? And you have to be serious.
But you can't do that, Kyle, because according to the spiritual girls, no, we got to think positivity. It's all about positive. You can't look at yourself in the mirror and think anything bad. No. You're doing the right thing.
Well, then they're not growing. Like me, my job as a coach would be, I wouldn't be a coach. And like when I teach my wrestlers, you did this wrong because you hit this move wrong. If we went by their standard,
oh, you just tearing me down, man. You're just being negative.
You're just being negative. Yeah. Like I know I did it correctly. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, part of the reason why I like wrestling is because reality smacks you in the face.
That's what I've been telling him about fighting, man. If like fighting, kickboxing, boxing, you know, I've done some sparring and stuff like that. Like it's like you can't hide from that. No. If you did something wrong, okay, all right. You like you said, like wrestling. The one-on-one, it will show you that you've made a mistake.
And wrestling is very unique in the sense that you are by yourself. When you are out there on the mat.
Yes. There is no team.
Like the previous coach, and I love this. He's like, this mat is very fickle. She knows when you've been dragging your tail. She knows when you haven't been putting the work in. Yep. And she does not care if you get your butt whooped on
and she is not loyal.
No.
She's not loyal.
No.
And when your ass is flat up on your back, and I'm coming over top, you saying, you ready to admit that you did it wrong now? Or am I still tearing you down?
I was hard-headed in high school, man. And I went up against a 3-time state champ. This dude, I went out there and I'm thinking I'm tough shit, right? Like I've had 4 JV matches and I pinned them all in the first period. And I'm like, I'm good. I'm the next Conor McGregor. I'm good. Back then it was Anderson Silva.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I got this shit. And I go up against this dude, and this dude just folds me into a pretzel. And it was the most humbling thing. And, you know, my mom's like, stop doing that. Stop throwing your headgear. My grandfather is like, he whooped your ass. Now what are you going to do?
Yep.
You know?
And and a lot of people, they don't have that. Reality's not hitting them in the face. They're sitting there going based off their feelings, or they're sitting around being mediocre, being fat, not getting their money right, doing all this stuff. And nothing's hitting them yet. They're like, oh, well, nothing's bad happened yet. I'm still good. I'm not bankrupt yet. Oh, hey, you know what I'm saying? Oh, I'm not. Well, I don't have any health problems yet. Yeah, I got belly gut. Reality's not hitting them in the face. Things I agree. Those one-on-one sports, you know immediately, like you fucked up. Like, and it's like, and it makes you want to get better. You're either gonna want to get better or you're gonna want to quit.
Yep.
And that's how life is. And people assume that, you know, just because stuff's not happening now, 20 years from now, my health, who gives a fuck? You know what I'm saying? Like, reality is gonna hit you.
I'm gonna hop in right here too, man. So I've been letting y'all cook. Y'all been having some really good conversations. And when conversations flow, and I don't believe in interrupting. But I just want to say I see a couple common themes here, man. And I wrote my notes down to make sure I don't forget this.
He's the Myron of this podcast. He's writing everything down.
But like, I don't know if it was Jordan Peterson or Rollo Tomasi that basically talked about this. It basically said that the majority of boys are raised in a single mother household, right? The majority of boys have female teachers. I know for me personally, I didn't have a male teacher until I was in 6th grade, I think.
You know how many boys are in that? Okay, so I teach at 2 different schools.
Okay.
One in the morning, one in the afternoon. There are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. The rest are all female. Right?
Facts.
The other school?
Go ahead.
4 out of 30-something, 40-something teachers? Yeah.
And usually one of those guys are usually the janitor.
Yep.
So,
and then the other one's the PE teacher.
Exactly.
So we got that. And then, like you're saying, boys aren't participating in like sports anymore, like wrestling, football, contact sports where there are like male spaces. There aren't any male spaces anymore. So you have a good chunk of men who are having 100% female experience and not realizing that, like you were saying earlier, the masculine and the feminine dynamic is very important. You need both of those roles as a man and as a boy to thrive, because, you know, most guys don't have a grandfather or father that says, you know what, hey, life's not fair. He kicked your ass. And if you want to win next time, what are you going to do about it? That's very important, bro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And there's no that old adage of like dusting yourself off and getting back into the fight.
Right.
There's none of that anymore.
Oh, that's considered toxic masculinity.
That's
and then this really disappointed me. Like I said, the last school I worked at, man, I was so disappointed. And it was so many things happening. But then another thing that I heard, you said the word discipline earlier. I remember I said that word. I remember over the intercom at lunchtime. And one of the teachers came up to me. This is a man. Not even man, probably about like 36, 37. He goes to me and said, man, I don't really like that word discipline. I said, why?
I'm sorry.
He's like, it's just kind of harsh. You know what I'm saying? There's nice ways to say. Discipline is the key to life, sir. Discipline? Have we gotten so soft to the point where we can't? Discipline is toxic? That's toxic masculinity now? Like, people say I go a little too far with stuff. And Myron coincidentally said it, but I completely agree with him. I don't care. Bro, I got picked on. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got in fights. I got in all that stuff. And that stuff made me.
Same.
You know, and I'm going to be completely honest. I'm not against kids getting bullied, because you're going to get bullied in life. You have to choose. You have to find your way around it. And it's either you're going to get up or you're going to get beat down. Which one going to happen? And I'm not sitting up here saying I want kids abused. That's not what I'm saying. Not at all. But there's going to be adversity in life. And you have to find a way around it. You can't avoid this kid every day. He's in your class. He's throwing paper balls at you. He's doing everything. Listen.
Where's the cojones? Where's the balls?
Exactly.
Stand up and say, like, I don't believe in that you should, like, because I've met parents that have, like, if anybody puts their hands on you, you put their hand on them back. Yeah, okay, but you don't teach them the nuance of it.
Mm-hmm.
So this kid now is out of elementary school because he's fighting every kid that touches him.
Correct. No, you have because with great power, like learning how to fight, or even just fighting, it's all power with that. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I said you have to teach people how to use power, especially boys.
It has to start at a young age.
Correct. I'm not saying so. I can give you a perfect example. Happened at the last school. Lots of happened at the school, but but I'm just saying, like another kid, same thing. 4th grade was baddish. 4th grade didn't hit a kid, but it was this 4th grade always playing around. He broke another kid's nose. So he nose is leaking stuff. So he goes to the principal's office, and then the kid just gets in school, and I'm just like, so my son has a broken nose. And I've even told a couple women that I was with, and I was like, listen, I would tell my son, listen, they're not going to do nothing about it. I would tell my son, when you get back to class, drop your book bag and go hit him. Now that's my opinion. People say that's toxic masculinity. It's not, because I come from where there's a such thing called a slippery slope. Where you let somebody get away with stuff like that, oh man, he a sucker, bro. He broke his nose. They get worse. Now they start getting, they start picking on him more.
That's the way it is in life too. Like when you give somebody, an inch, they take 20 miles before you finally stop them.
And females always try to come back to me on this. They're like, that's so toxic. Why don't you just walk away? Well, let me tell you about a little story about right. When I was younger, right, I tell the story a lot. These kids took my shoes. You know what I'm saying? Parents never knew about it. Nobody ever knew about it. These kids took my shoes. I used to go to the store to get honey buns or whatever. It was over at my cousin's house, all this other stuff. These kids had pinned me down. They were older, like 15, 16. I was like probably 6 or 7. Pinned me down, took my shoes, all that good stuff. Bullied me. I tried to walk around them. I tried to do it. Couldn't do nothing about it. Went and told my cousin. Cousin came out. Let's just say he got them shoes back. But my whole point about it is, though, you can't avoid stuff like that. You can't just walk around it. You may. What happens when you're that kid and like, okay, somebody comes up and pushes you when you're just trying to just go away, or you're a little nerdy kid and you're just trying to get around and they just keep. There comes a point in time where you got to send a fucking message. And some people say that's toxic. It's not toxic, because at the end of the day, you have to defend yourself at a certain point. I'm not promoting violence, but to sit up here and say that violence is not a reality of the world at some point in time, it is.
You have to stand up and say no at some point.
You do. And you can't let somebody beat you to a pulp.
With this kind of thought process, the Allied nations in World War II would never have stood up to Hitler. They just would have let him continue to annex his territory until eventually it would have been so much that they're like, okay, we literally can't stop him now. He has all of your.
They're like, hey, my bad, man. Just go.
Then after that, it was the USSR. Like, okay, we're just going to let them install like communist governments everywhere. And then we're just going to be like, oh, okay, no, we're not doing this anymore.
Yeah. And then go ahead.
I was just saying, I like how y'all kind of played off of that, because Kyle, you're right. There should be some nuance to that too. But I 100% agree with you too, Oliver, because I know for a fact, very rarely does unchecked behavior get better over time. It gets a lot worse. But I definitely agree. Both y'all have points on that.
And I think,
because I'm not somebody that believes that you should just roll over. Absolutely not.
Yeah, I'm not talking about like a kid pushes you along by accident. Come on, now you're gonna get in trouble. You know what I'm saying? But it's like this kid literally intentionally hits you, and he keeps doing it, or he keeps flicking you in the back of the head on the bus. Man, push him back. Like at the end of the day, because once you do that, you do it once. Then they're like, hey, even if you lose, they could be like, man, I don't even want to mess with this dude because this dude gonna come with problems. They want easy targets.
See, and you look at like kids that are brought up in like combat sports, for example,
right? Like
wrestling. I'll just use wrestling just because it's my background, and I've trained in martial arts too for a couple of years.
Okay.
When you're brought up in that, say like wrestling, for example, you learn to have a respect for the power that you now hold. You do. Because like, and I've explained this to my fiance, where it's like, she's like, what is it like being a wrestler? And I said to her, I was like, babe, when I walk into a room, right? If you and I go to the club, right? We don't go to the club. When we go to the club, if I walk into the room with you, I look at every single man in that room and I go, I could beat that ass. I could beat your ass.
Seriously.
Right? And it's not even just a macho thing. It's if things get hairy, I got you kind of thing.
And it's so crazy. And he's even seen me up close and personal. There's a lot of times where it's like when you know you got power in your hands or you got power in your martial arts ability, you're not even trying to use it.
Right.
Somebody might try to come up to you and do some stuff. I'm just like, bro, come on, man.
We're the ones that are stepping back.
Exactly. You're like, bro, because you, like you said, when you know the power that you possess, because I could easily just KO you. I mean,
Mhm.
one shot.
Yep.
One shot to the dome, and that's it.
I've already got you locked in. You're in my crosshairs.
I know exactly what points I'm looking at on your head. I'm looking. Come on, dude.
I've already got you zoned into my distance, my reach.
So it's like, you know, that's a huge thing. But see, a lot of people would say, you know, that's toxic and stuff like that. But no, learning to fight, learning how to defend yourself, learning when to stand up, when to be assertive, and also knowing when to stand down.
Mhm.
That's part of having, like I said, control.
That's the chess game, the mental chess game.
It's the mental chess game, and chess game is the gentleman's sport, and that's where, like you said, we're losing a lot of that. Everybody's playing checkers, move to move. Nobody's playing chess anymore. You meet very few. So, and I just, you know, just as a whole, just wrapping it up, you know, the school system is number one, making slaves, but then also two, it's cutting our boys' dicks off. I forgot the word for that, but at the same time, it's like that.
No,
it's
castrating.
Castrating. Castrating. That was the word. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. But they're cutting they're castrating basically our boys. You know, they're not making them men. They're expecting them to just stand there and just do stuff like that. Listen, okay, I want them to stand in order too, but I understand they got testosterone running through their veins. They're gonna be a little more rowdy than girls. But one thing I hate when teachers say, "Oh, be more like the girls." They're not girls. They're not gonna do that. Or it's like when they're kind of like wrestling and stuff, like, why do y'all do that? Girls that got brothers seem to know. But it's like these females, sometimes you got to understand, like, boys, I'm sorry to say boys will be boys, but sometimes that is the thing.
Right. And I've been like, because I teach from a very conservative standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
If you hadn't noticed already, but I'm very much in the sense of like, when the biggest problem that you see cropping up in public school systems is that the system is set up to the point where you have two different things going on. You have a school system that is designed to help females succeed, right? Because women are naturally okay, without question. The kids who follow my rules the best are
the girls. I mean,
females.
Yeah, and that's
and then the second thing is the teaching of men that they are the problem. And it's not even, and now they're starting to split it up into, okay, so now it's white people who are the problem. If you're a white male, now you are the problem. Right. And I've said this in our conversations.
That sucks, bro.
In schools.
Oh man, I know you got canceled. They probably had some conversations with you.
I'll just kind of talk about it just a little bit. So in the conversation, I said my views I don't believe are respected. And I fully agreed with that, because I fully believed that, because in the school that I worked at, there is it's a school that's primarily based on asking questions, and I like that. But when during a certain time of the year, during the election season, all that other stuff, they had the election, like the inauguration, on in the classrooms in an elementary school. I'm like, why is this up? And you see teachers kind of walking through the hallways, just high-fiving each other and everything else. And I'm kind of sitting back and I'm thinking to myself, hey, this is way bigger than just being in elementary school.
That's facts, bro.
You know, I wear, you know, we have a splash day or something like that. You know, I wear my swim shorts and my shirt, and my swim shorts is, you know, red, white, and blue, you know, because my grandfather served in the army.
All right.
Went to Korea, served in Germany, you know, on the Berlin Wall. Cool. My grandmother escaped my great grandmother escaped Nazi Germany. I know what oppression sounds like. For when I have a teacher look at me and say, "You're being too nice," that kind of belief is what we're trying to get away from. I said, "What? The belief that you're the belief that if something goes wrong, you're going to call a male police officer."
Yep.
Don't talk to me and it's so much more than that now.
It is. It's getting worse. And
it's designed to split kids off from being one with their parents.
It is.
It's a communist.
And
idea.
then it's also raising them to say, even when parents split now, oh, most likely your dad's the big bad monster. Your mom is the queen. Your mom's doing everything right. All this other bullshit. But at the same time, like you said, my grandfather, very tough. You know what I'm saying? He served. My dad served. Me personally, everybody can feel how they want to. I'm not. I would never kneel for the flag. But that's my standpoint. People say, "Oh, well, you're not black. You're not this." I'm not doing that because at the end of the day, I've seen places like El Salvador. You see places that are like, "Yo, motherfuckers got AK-47s like literally standing right outside of the school. Like motherfuckers, they'll cut their hands off just so they don't have guns. Like we got for I was explaining to him about Victor Bout. You know, that's what he was importing these guns and stuff like that. Kids outside, and I'm like, bro, you don't know how blessed you are and how thankful you are to be in this country where you can even say something like that.
I want to hop in here too, real quick too, because I was reading this book. Shout out Mark Zolo. He has a book called My Life as a Mexican Pirate. Really good read if you want to check it out. But basically, he was talking to some lady over, and I think it was Sudan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And basically, what had happened was there were like a group of mercenaries that came through, killed her husband, but before they killed her husband, decapitated him. They basically raped her and her daughter, gang raped them in front of her before he was killed. Like, do you not know how astronomically like something like that even happening here is just like not even in the realm of possibility?
Not even in the first part.
That's why, bro. But that's why people hate Americans, because we are so fucking sheltered
and spoiled.
And we spoiled, like you said, and we have it so good here. But they have no idea how good we have because they don't travel outside of these coasts here.
Yep.
I'm telling you, bro. And like you said, again, the whole flag thing, I don't agree with it either. People are going to do what they want to do.
No, and that's fine. But but I'm saying, but like respect everybody's beliefs.
Sure.
Just because you decide to kneel and I decide to stand, that don't make me anything less than
that
you.
Doesn't make
we
you
all have our opinions
right.
and why we do what we do. I respect you for kneeling, but respect me for standing. That's all I say.
Right.
And
exactly.
I'm gonna tell you somebody who appreciates America a lot more now, Brittany Griner.
Bro,
you know,
man,
we gave away Victor Bout, bro.
Imagine hating your country and then we're gonna also bring you back. Like after you actually committed
committed the crime. We're gonna definitely get canceled for this. You actually committed the crime, bro. Like like what? And then we trade one of the most dangerous men. That's up there with Osama bin Laden. Not up there, but like he's like right next tier below.
He was the dealer of death.
The merchant of death.
This dude was dealing big weight. And we traded him for a WNBA player.
To be fair, like Kyle was saying, I do like nuance in my shit, so I'm gonna go here. Do I believe that the Russian penalty for a culture of marijuana is way too fucking high? Absolutely. But with that being said,
they did that as a ploy for the United States.
Oh, sure, absolutely. But I'm just saying, with that being said, those are the fucking laws there. And if you don't like it, don't go.
And fuck that shit.
That's where that privilege comes in.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck that shit. At the end of the day, every place is not America. Everybody's not with all this freedom shit. Not everybody. If you go to a certain place, you respect their laws. You know what I'm saying? Everywhere is not like here. If females wear a hijab somewhere or whatever, it's okay. Yo, just respect the culture.
Right.
But if somebody's saying like, oh, they're being too harsh, you can't. No. Even if it's a ploy on the United States, there's a reason why Snoop Dogg didn't go over there. He's like, nah, man, I like my weed. Don't fucking go. At the end of the day, but when you go, you respect their countries and respect their views. Just because America, we don't have any values anymore, that don't mean that the rest of the world doesn't. So when you go somewhere, you respect it and you suffer the consequences. And I personally don't feel sorry for her. I don't feel sorry for her. I don't feel sorry for nobody. Because when you break the law, that's what the fuck happens.
Exactly.
And the only reason, and I'm definitely getting canceled over this, the only reason why she even came back was because she's black and she's gay. That's the only reason. Because we got a military Marine that's sitting over there right now. We could have traded for him too. We didn't do that. He
said something about it too.
That's a white Marine that's sitting over there that nobody gives a fuck about, but we give a fuck about her because she's gay and she's black. Fuck that shit. Committed the crime, and he served for the country.
I'm gonna tell you this. I agree with what you're saying, but also the report saying that they tried to trade for what's his name? Paul. What's his name? Paul
Boatman.
I'm sorry. I know. Yeah,
I know
it's something like that.
Yeah,
but basically, Russia was saying that they would not negotiate for him whatsoever. That's what the report's saying.
But let's be honest, bro. If me and you let's take this very easy, right? Let's go back to my favorite player, Kobe Bryant. Rest in peace. Okay. Let's just say we all playing basketball on the court, right? Kobe fouls out. All right, dang, he's out. Let's say I got Tyronn Lue. Tyronn Lue fouls out.
Mm-hmm.
Dang. Okay, cool. If we sit up there and say, you know what? Let's come to a consensus. Let's say you also, I also have Michael Jordan on my team, right? If you got Kobe Bryant on your team, I got Michael Jordan, and I got Tyronn Lue. You're not going to sit there and be like, all right, bro, listen, If I let Kobe get back in the game, you let Mike get back. You're gonna be like, fuck no. You're gonna be like, nah, bro, fuck that. I'd rather just have them just both sit out. But if you say, hey, if Kobe get back in the game and you can let Tyronn Lue back in, you know what? Why not? Of course.
You would lose your job in a heartbeat.
Exactly. So it's like, bro, look at who it is. What's more valuable? Russia has outthought us. A Marine is definitely more dangerous. They shouldn't have negotiated. I mean, they shouldn't. They wouldn't. A WNBA player, what value is she gonna? What is she gonna do against a Victor Bout? So yeah, Russia outsmarted us, man, and that just really goes to show.
And this kind of plays into us, what we kind of view ourselves now. Like we view ourselves as like we're the bastion of freedom in the world because you can do this and you can be any person you want. If you want to be a man and the next day you want to be a female, you can do that.
Yeah, you want to compete in women's sports.
But listen, you're a grown adult. You can make your own decisions. I don't care what you do. Just stay out of my life. But when it comes to other countries, you look at Russia, you look at China, okay? Authoritarian governments don't typically step down just because you believe that they should hold themselves to the standard that you hold yourself to.
No, they're not like that. It's not no socialism shit. They do not fuck around with that. They don't give a fuck what you think.
And like, Putin, and it's no coincidence. Okay, I had my gripes with Trump. I voted for him. I had my gripes with him. Somebody should have just smashed his phone and took his. Yeah, we should have just took his Twitter away because his policy. I loved it. Grade A. Loved it. Okay. Created an alliance in the Middle East, everything else. Especially loved it about my gas prices and my wallet. Like,
well, you can't say anything nice about Trump. That'll get you canceled because he was the worst president on earth, right?
Well, but bro, like, I don't believe he had his gripes just like everybody else does. We're imperfect beings. But
I'm being sarcastic.
I know. But when you have a guy that's in there now, okay, in Biden, and look, I didn't vote for him. I didn't think he was fit for the office. Whatever. I could go on and on and on. But he's my president, so I was hoping that he would do well. The moment that you back down to a bunch of 8th century barbarians from Afghanistan, okay, you back out in the way you back out. Then on top, so that's showing your tail right there. And in the realm of politics in the world stage, you don't ever show your tail. American hegemony matters in the world stage because wherever we assert our influence matters to us in the long run. We took a step back in the 90s. What happened in early 2001? 9/11 happened.
Yep, it's true.
It's because we took a step back.
All right.
And then, it's none of our business what goes on across the world. Well, when you're a superpower, it does, unfortunately.
Yep.
In like what we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, those ripple effects happened. Now, whether they are good ripple effects or bad ripple effects, it's determinant on the leadership that's at play. Putin is trying to establish the Russian Empire. China is looking at Taiwan and going, what is stopping them from going across what is stopping him from going into Ukraine? Well, nothing, because he went right across, and what did he do? Now, granted, the U.S. started funding Ukraine, and now you see the toll that is taken on the Russian military, but now you're looking for an off-ramp for Putin, because if you don't give him an off-ramp, dictators don't just step down.
No, they don't.
Dictators don't just step back, because what people don't realize is when you're a dictator, you can't be wrong. If you're wrong, they come with pitchforks.
Somebody's got to
die.
And what they don't understand is that by us, people think that, like you said, they don't think 14 moves ahead. They see we're doing all this weakness, lowering standards on our military, doing shit like that. In the UK, I think you don't even have to, for firefighters, they don't even have to take a physical exam anymore.
Which is astounding.
Which is crazy, but that's okay.
Did you see what happened with the Navy SEALs today?
No, what happened?
So I don't know what news organization put it out, but I'm assuming it was a liberal organization because it didn't come out of Fox. But they were talking about the harsh treatment of Navy SEALs during Navy SEAL training.
Goggins is spitting.
My fiance and I are talking to each other this morning, and she goes, "Do they not understand what they go through
and what they have to do?
Like these are." And I said to her, I was like, "They're trying to soften these guys up. It's bad enough they soften the military up as it is. I have a friend of mine who was a Marine. They had stress cards. What? Stress cards?
And see, but that's what I'm saying. But then when you do things like that, just like the mice, you know what I'm saying? The mice experiment I was talking about earlier, when you make, like I said, soften these people up, this and that, where do you have easy takeover? If I'm just gonna call it
easy control.
Easy control. If somebody easily wanted to take over that, they could. Especially next 20 years, we're getting softer, we're getting tired, everybody is freaking depressed. You know what I'm saying? If somebody really wanted to really come take over, the women are acting more masculine than the men. Men are the ones that make the revolution that protect. But if you don't got nobody to protect, Russia come and wipe us out. China.
Well, the thing is, right now, if you're starting to see people stand up and say something about this now, but if this doesn't get solved sometime in the next 10 years, our right now, militarily, nobody can touch us.
Yeah.
Right. You're seeing that in Russia right now, having trouble with Ukraine. You think they're going to be able to stand up to the United States? The United States will just be like, right. All right, there's half your country gone. And then China is also the same way. China is also, people think that China is a superpower right now. They are very, very weak in their economy just because
they are. But I was actually watching this actually a history channel. And like I said, we'll wrap this up because I know we're getting pretty far. Yeah. But not this good speech though. But we was shitting on China, like I said, back in like the 60s, 70s. But literally, it's like you said, it's a ripple effect. It's kind of like a slow burn, but slowly but surely, China's economy started catching up. And we're still, like you said, we're still stronger than them. But like I said, 10, 20 years, 30 years, are we going to be saying the same thing? I don't know.
Not when the values have been degraded so much.
Exactly. And that's why they don't let all this Megan Thee Stallion and all that. They don't play none of that stuff with their TikTok. We talked about that. They have stuff that's like educational going by. All that stuff makes a difference. Mm-hmm. And so,
I read something the other day. It's not about the fact being the fact. It's about who's writing the fact.
There you go.
That matters.
Yep.
Because if I can control how the fact is written, then who can stop? Whoever reads it is going to read it as though it is the truth instead. And the two most annoying things I hate, one is related to teaching, and then one is related to just in general life. I hate the word "my truth."
I can't stand that shit. My God. They be like, that's my reality, not your reality. No. There's the reality, and everything outside of that is a lie.
And like your truth. No, you mean your opinion. And then
we got to get you down here with these girls, man.
Bro. And then the next thing is my child is my best friend. That's how you know you have failed as a parent. My mom never once said to me, "Oh, you're my best friend." You just make my life so much better.
I'm gonna close because Ian Rand, she was a bad bitch philosopher. She said, and shout out to Coach Corey Wayne for giving me this quote.
Corey Wayne.
She says, "You can ignore reality, but you can't ignore the consequences of ignoring reality."
Reality is not bending to your will.
Exactly.
You can either go with reality, or reality is a brick wall, and you are gonna run right into it.
Well, that's your reality, Kyle. That's not my reality.
That's your truth. But hey, Kyle, bro, this has been seriously
incredible
amazing.
Episode.
You brought so much value to us, man, and you're an important staple in the school system. So if you ever feel unappreciated, we're telling you thank you for being out there and helping these boys, because they are the next generation. People don't want to talk about this, but 100 years from now, everybody in this room is going to be dead and gone.
And let's just say it. We know you get paid shit, man. I was a teacher. We know teachers don't get paid nowhere near for them. Like you said, for the amount of stress y'all deal with. Always, man. Thank you, man. Thank you so much for what you do. And even the coaching, bro. Like, all that is your time. And you can be with your fiance, your family, but you choose to give that back to the community. That's a very special thing, man.
And thanks for being here with us, man. I know. And thank you. What's your girl's name?
Nicole.
Shout out Nicole. Thank you for sharing him with us tonight, man. We really appreciate
it. Nicole?
Hopefully you come down here one day with some of the girls, because I think if you were Kyle, you got some common sense. We need to help these other ladies down here. So let's go ahead and do last thoughts on the show. Oliver, what you think about it, bro?
Incredible episode. I'm gonna start plugging my Instagram. You guys can follow me at Fortune with 12 E's on Instagram. Biggest thing is like, hey, let's just keep continuing to stand up. Let's be a strong community. Let's continue to shatter these illusions, man.
And it's nothing but fortune. Skylar, what you think about it?
Come back to me.
She wasn't ready.
she was. Kyle, go ahead, man.
I had been talking to Oliver about it, man. Like, I've been wanting to work with y'all for a while, and for me, I'm trying to get out of the school system so I can be more vocal about what's going on in it, because I'm strapped in what I can talk about. Even what I had talked about with you guys tonight, it goes so much deeper than that.
Sure.
And, I'm all about giving people tools to success. It's about having multiple streams of income, having multiple skills, having, something that you can draw upon, right? Having something you can draw upon. I have on my website an affiliate marketing 3-day, basically, here's how you set your system up and you can plug anything into it. I'm about giving people fishing poles, not a fish.
Right.
And that's what it's about. And that's what I believe this podcast does better than just about any other podcast. Just about any other podcast that I can think of. You guys give fishing poles to people and be like, okay, so the choice is yours whether you want to catch the fish or not.
I appreciate that, bro. Appreciate it. And you're welcome at any time, bro. Seriously, hope to have you down here with some ladies. Hope to have you back once your stuff is on super lock and you can talk a lot more freely and everything. You want to go ahead and plug everything, your Instagram, all that other stuff, bro?
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys can follow me on Instagram. I got a link tree for all my stuff, for my bucked up stuff. If you guys wanted premier stuff, 20% off.
That's more
use
than
my
good.
code. I also am in the process of working with another fitness brand that's just a clothing brand. It's called Crusaders. It's pretty awesome. I'll be dropping that stuff later on. You guys can follow me on TikTok. I post a lot of stuff on there. I'm on there a lot. Instagram, I post a lot of stuff, and then my Facebook as well. But primarily, my two active accounts are Instagram and
then
TikTok.
your podcast. Did you have any podcasts that you episodes that you have coming out soon, or did you
I would
work on?
It's tough with wrestling season
Gotcha.
because I'm getting home at 7:00, and I don't want my wife. I don't.
You gotta balance it. It's tough
Yeah,
at the
you
time.
gotta
I
balance the
understand, I
relationship,
understand.
man. So I can't just be like, all right, babe.
All
All right, I'm going in to do an
2
hour-long
more
podcast.
hours. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, once wrestling season's over, I'll be doing it at least twice a week.
Okay.
If not, I'm also starting another podcast to work with, giving people more fishing poles in the sense of like creating their own business, and in the sense of where I kind of delving into your realm a lot more, where I'm going to be calling you up and be like, hey, well, I might need you to come on as a podcast, either on Google Meet or whatever.
Okay.
But,
Cool.
and that is the name of that one's Breaking the Mold.
Okay.
And then you obviously have my coaching corner, coach's corner one.
Okay.
And so,
Like I said, we all got to help each other, man. That's what we all love. I mean, we know that we're a very small corner on the internet, and we all got to help each other out, man. So we'll definitely figure out ways to build everybody's brands up. So
absolutely,
definitely.
man.
Let us know how we can help, bro. We're here for you, man. But again, guys, follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Shattered Illusionz. Ladies, you already know if you're in the DMV area, you want to come down here, get some of this smoke. We are ready for you. And also any businesses, if you want to come on and can bring value to our guys, let us know. But as I always say,
Hold on. Skylar still didn't answer.
Oh my goodness. Well, I thought you all had some very interesting takes. I don't really.
She like, fuck
appreciate-
y'all. Let's take it to the
She said, "Look, I just made an enemy of Skylar." Skylar's like, "Don't ever bring that dude on again."
No, because TK knows I will lay it out there when I have a problem.
nah, listen, Skylar, she can be very logical when she's not in the feelings. She's a very logical female when she's not in the feelings. So we'll have her back and we'll do all the other shit. But as I always say, that be like all our time to the next time. This is the Shattered Illusionz Podcast.
Yeah.
Kill the fantasy, build the dream, and we are out of here. Love y'all, boys.
Will I take him to the breaking?
All right. Hey.